Amplified worlds are just so inspiring to build in. So when I found this seed with an oak village in an amplified world, I knew I just had to transform it. So I decided to use an extreme transformation on this village. An extreme transformation just means we're going to be adding quite a lot more to the village than already exists in the initial village. First step, of course, is to mold the terrain. So I remove the trees and grass that already exist, change it to stone so I can use some brushes, and simply just smooth out some of the bumps and imperfections that are around in this terrain, kind of blocking the view of our village. I make the village a bright red so that we can clearly see where all the village structures are placed, and then I add back in the lovely terrain colors, accenting a few of the cliffs with some darker grays. Then it's time to create a plan. Honestly, for this village transformation, I didn't really have much of a plan. I knew I wanted to add some walls, I knew I wanted a big cathedral off to the side to replace where our village church would be, I knew I wanted to add a few more houses to the village, I knew I wanted water wheels, and I wanted a clock in the center. But that's all I really had. So we're going to be sort of transforming this as we get inspired. I did know about a block palette though. I wanted to stick a lot to the original block palette that was given, but I did need to add a few blocks to provide the contrast and details that the village needed. Now, to start with this village transformation, I knew I wanted it to be steampunk, so I started by adding some simple gears to this front wall. I end up removing these a little later on, but they are really good for some initial inspiration. Then I start adding the details of the cathedral. This village does come with a church, so this building will replace that. Now we're going to transform the blacksmith. I do all of the house transformations, keeping the base blocks and just adding a few. So the base is still cobble, I use oak logs and oak planks for our roofs, and I just add a few extra fantasy details. Like the blown block for the walls, I use netherrack for the edges to make them contrast against the cliff. For the second house, I move it out to the side a little bit more so that I can transform it into a side tower for this mine entrance. It will also feature a nice pipe and a water wheel off to the side. Speaking of water wheels, I'm going to mark in 2 simple water wheels over here. Naturally, this terrain had some water falling from this point, so I knew that I wanted to have something to do with water wheels over here, but I didn't know exactly what to begin with, so I roughly marked it in so I could come back to it later. Now we have a lot more oak houses to transform up at the top here. Quite a few actually, and they're all packed together so tightly. For some of them, I made them connect together with bridges, and I think this was a super fun way to do it. Now, I knew that my steampunk village had to be using their steam to power something, so what was that going to be? I thought a clock would be perfect. This village would be the timekeeper's village. So they would be in charge of keeping time for the entire lands. So I place a big clock in the center and I pump on the side and some gears behind it so that it could be powered by steam. This gives our village a purpose and a better lore, which makes it a lot more inspiring to build in my opinion. Once the base of the clock and pump are in place, I make some gears. Building these flat at first and then rotating them vertically so that they can be placed behind our clock on the cliff. Because my clock face is glass, this adds a really nice contrasting detail behind it. And I made them out of wood because this is amplified terrain, we have so much stone. If I made them out of stone, they just would be almost invisible back there. Now I add some walls against the back of this cliff. I want to make this village look like it's really built into the cliffs, because that's the whole point of having amplified terrain, right? Once that part is done, it's time to make a gate for the lower entrance of our village. So a very simple gate in this wall will do us perfectly. Through to the other side, we build a simple little path and gathering area on the bottom, and then work on transforming our final house that is on the base of the village. This will be the timekeeper's house, so I put a big gear on the top so that the villager that lives here can control the time. Now it's time to transform the rest of the houses. Up at the top here, these were so challenging because they were so packed together, but I gave it a very fantasy look, stacking different layers on top of each other. At first they almost look very medieval, but stacked on top of each other they're a lot more fantasy, and I like to add lots of windmills, cranes, pipes, etc. to hopefully add in that steampunk vibe. Once that's done, it's time to think about our dam. So we have a dam at the bottom because these water wheels and pipes are pumping in so much water and they're taking groundwater up to make it into steam. So I thought having a dam would make a lot of sense. Now that we've added that, we're jumping back up to the top of the village to mark in the village walls. I go back in and add details later on. Now, the cathedral is very unfinished, so of course we need to finish it. I transform the cobble that was on it to netherrack, add a simple tower in the back, and then move over to the side where we're going to be adding some more houses. Because this village didn't come with too many structures, I wanted to expand it out and add just a couple more houses off to the side to really make it look like it's built into the cliff. Then I transformed the water wheels that I already have in place. I asked my Discord server for some advice here, and you guys were so incredibly helpful for this, so thank you so much to everyone who helped and gave me advice on this build. I decided to go for 3 interlocking water wheels with some gears in between them. These should be able to power the village just fine. Then jumping back to my side village to fill it all in. You'll notice I jump around quite a lot in this build, and that's because I was struggling with it a lot. I didn't have a good solid plan, so I jumped from part to part whenever I got a good idea. Like right now, we're working on the dam again, adding some more pipes and details to the wall. Then we're going to be adding some water flow and gears to our water wheel contraption that we've got going on here. Then it's time to detail, and this is such a fun step. There is actually 3 farms at the top here, and I transform all 3, starting with this one. Just a really simple, solid design, make it look like they could farm there. Now, moving back down to the dam, we're going to be adding the final details down here, as well as fixing up the terrain. This really brings it together in my opinion, and I just love the addition of the dam. Now, of course, our cathedral needs some detailing. This is going to be sort of a gathering area for the people who live here, and also access and staircase into the mountains and the cliffs. So this is a really important building to get right, and I wanted to give it lots of detail. You'll notice we're using purple accents all around this build. Then, arguably one of the most important parts of a steampunk build, the steam pipes. Of course we would need some of those right by the water wheels. Now we have 2 more farms to transform in the back here. Just some really simple designs on these farms, as this isn't a farming village at all. They just need a little bit of food, and then some market stands so they can do some trading of their goods, and it also adds a nice pop of color. Then 1 more village house to transform, which is just a simple little tiny one. So I make it a tiny little shed right next to the staircase. Now, as a final detail, I decided I wanted to add airships around here, because I mean, it's steampunk. When else are you going to have a good opportunity to add airships? So we add a simple dock in the back here, and then have a very simple and small airship docked back here. I also build 2 more airships towards the front, 1 in prismarine and 1 in sprucewood. I absolutely love the addition of these airships. I think they give such a lovely fantasy feel. I remember when I first started playing Minecraft in 2013, steampunk was such a massively popular style back then, and I really wish I had gotten into it sooner, but this was so satisfying to build. With the airships complete, our extreme Oak Village transformation is officially done. I had such an amazing time creating this village and using my imagination to make it come to life. I hope you all enjoy it too. Let me know in the comments down below what your favorite part of it is. And remember, if you want to see more content like this, definitely subscribe and leave suggestions on what you'd like to see me build next. Don't forget to check out the description before you go if you have any questions, because I leave a lot of information down there. Anyways, with all of that said, I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye!